Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel for yet another podcast. So today I am making a follow-up podcast to my Leaving Neverland podcast titled My Response to Leaving Neverland. Now this is going to be my final video of the two videos I've made so far on this whole thing. I told you that I wouldn't make you sit through an entire 45-minute video showing you guys each bit of evidence in Michael Jackson's favor, but I felt like I was kind of doing an injustice on Michael's part by not including everything, and I think if he was here guiding this, he would want me to include everything. Now guys, when I literally say everything, I mean everything from radio interviews to Dan Reed interviews to Brandy Jackson interviews to Taj Jackson interviews to Jordy Chandler to Wade Robson to James Safechuck, everything in between. And then I'm going to leave this chapter, leave this video to the public to make your choice. Like I said, I am not here to sway your opinions. I am here to give you facts and evidence, and what you do with it is your choice. The first point I would like to open this video with is the fact that Wade Robson dated Brandy Jackson, Michael Jackson's niece, because he developed a crush on her on the Black or White video. He politely asked Jackson if he would set them up, and so he did, as explained in this radio interview done by Brandy Jackson about 2 months ago.
Running this interview, I'm startled that you have not been out there in a very national public way. I know you've done a couple of smaller interviews before this, Neverland, Leaving Neverland, whatever you want to call it. I don't call it a documentary, but it's been called a documentary before that aired. So the point here is that you guys didn't come to me. I came to you and asked you to do this interview, and this is not part of some sort of overall plan or scheme by the Jackson estate, is it?
No, not at all. Not at all. Like you said, you came to me, and I had been hoping to do several interviews, TV interviews, and coincidentally, as they approached, they got canceled. So a lot of interviews that I had been setting up were just getting canceled left and right. The radio interviews were sticking, so I would take those. Podcasts, they wouldn't cancel on me, I would take them. Anything I could do to spread the truth.
I didn't know this about the television, so can you give me an example of that?
You know, I hate to put, different networks on blast. I hate to do that, but there was Good Morning America was one of them. An ABC interview was another one.
And when was that supposed to happen?
I believe it was the same week. It was either the week. It was the week that the documentary was airing on Sunday. It was the week prior.
And so they had asked you to come on.
Yes.
And was there an explanation for why it was canceled?
It was a very convoluted explanation. It had to do something with a night show picking up one show, and they took Wade's interview, and it was just a very convoluted explanation as to why they didn't want to take the interview any further. It made no sense to me. I can't even repeat it to you because it was that convoluted.
So you were getting a sense that this was not the straight explanation?
Absolutely. 100%.
You think that they just decided, for whatever reason, they were not going to tell your side of the story?
Yes. Yes.
And was this more than just ABC, or was...
Those were the two major ones, right, that really kind of hit me hard because I was really looking forward to speaking my piece. Mm-hmm. And part of the reason why it hit me so hard is because, for example, Oprah. Dan Reed and Oprah both ran with Wade and James's story without getting anybody else's side. So I felt like this was happening again when my interviews were being canceled. It was, again, nobody's getting my side of the story.
Well, and let's be clear why your side of the story is so integral here, because for those who may not know, there are two stars of Leaving Neverland. One is a guy by the name of Wade Robson, and I believe he's actually the star of the film. I mean, you could argue whether it's him or the other accuser, but he's given at least 2 hours in this 4-hour film to tell his side of the story unfettered. And the reason why you are important is not just because you're Michael Jackson's niece, but because you know Wade Robson in a very close and very unique relationship, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell us about that.
So Wade and I met in approximately 1991. we had done several things together. We did the LA Gear photo shoot with my Uncle Michael, as well as the Black or White video. And after doing those, when you're on set, everybody's hanging out and getting to know each other. But after doing those 2 shoots, he had developed a crush on me and had asked my Uncle Michael if he would basically put us in a situation where we could get to know each other further. So my uncle invited Wade, his mom, and his sister, as well as me and my brother, to the ranch. So we spent about 5 to 7 days there just getting to know each other.
Now you see in this video Brandy Jackson explaining her relationship with Wade Robson. You also hear her explain that multiple TV interviews and radio interviews were canceled regarding this topic in her uncle's defense. It seems to me that the media is setting a one-sided story and only doing what sells and not telling the truth and already presuming a dead man guilty when he has been proven innocent. Like I've said on this earth before, do not presume a dead man guilty because he is innocent. As I've said in the previous video, what people are also forgetting here is the fact that Wade Robson was the first defense witness to take the stand in 2005, saying that nothing happened. Tom Mesereau was so confident in Wade Robson's testimony that he actually led Michael Jackson to be innocent. Tom Mesereau tells us that Wade Robson went through a hardcore questioning while he was at court. And do you know what it means to lie under oath? That means perjury, and perjury is a crime, and you can get prosecuted for it.
Which he very strongly declared did not happen, correct?
Absolutely. He was very, very powerful in his testimony that nothing, directly or indirectly, that's improper had ever happened to him. He wasn't improperly touched, he wasn't improperly fondled, he wasn't improperly molested. We went through all of this in direct examination, and he was subjected to a powerful cross-examination. And he was a stalwart witness in support of Michael Jackson's innocence. He was one of the strongest I heard. That's why I called him first.
You wanted evidence? I'm giving you evidence. The next point that I'm going to make is the fact that Wade Robson repeatedly tried to attach his name to Michael Jackson projects in 2013, such as Dancing to Unbreakable, choreographing his music to that song. Answer me this: if you were abused from the ages of 7 to 14, wouldn't you want to distance yourself from your abuser? This is just one of many attempts to try and tie his name to Michael Jackson's name. He was so desperate for work that he tried to get a book deal and a tribute show, both of which flopped. As a matter of fact, he worked with Britney Spears and actually ended up cheating on Brandy Jackson, ending that relationship in 2001 between Wade and Brandy.
And then there's obviously such a huge connection between Michael Jackson and MTV and really starting this real music video generation on MTV. I mean, Michael was really the king of that. And obviously my connection with Michael and all of that coming together is kind of just one of those serendipitous things where all the elements have come together. So I'm excited for a lot of reasons to be a part of this.
A few short years later, it was said that Wade Robson had a mental breakdown. I would now like to show you his statement in the 2005 criminal trial. He was clearly asked if he had ever been sexually assaulted by Michael Jackson. He says, absolutely not, and if he was aware of the allegations, and he was aware. It's not the first time, though, that Wade Robson was in defense of Michael Jackson. He went on the Jimmy Kimmel Show in 2003 after Jimmy Kimmel insinuated that there was some abuse going on, and he shut him right down.
And you started as a youngster dancing with Michael Jackson?
Yeah, started dancing when I was like 2, and then won a dance competition when I was 5 that Michael was holding sort of all over the world doing his tour. And it was like a dance-alike contest like him.
Right.
I won that, and then the prize
And then
was
you
to
moved
meet
into the
him.
ranch.
Easy, Dean. Easy.
No, I didn't move into
he's
the
not
ranch.
moving to the
No.
ranch. Are you still friendly with Michael?
Yeah, we still talk every couple months, catch up.
You do, really?
Yeah.
Well, what's he like?
What's he like? He's a good guy.
Is he a good guy?
Yeah.
Show me where he touched you. You never, nothing
Same
ever,
place he touched you. bro.
nothing ever like that? No nonsense,
not at
no
all, bro.
shenanigans? But
Not
he's
at
a
all, bro.
weird guy, you have to admit, right?
You know what? At the end of the day, it's like everybody's got something weird about him. Everybody's got something strange about him.
Yeah, but some people more than
Yeah,
others.
but
Yeah.
true. At the end of the day, all I'm here, it's like, you know, you may not like, you
It's
may
just
have weird
about the
thoughts
dancing
about him.
at the end of the day.
Why don't you let me talk for a minute? No. But it's like, you know, as long as people don't forget, you know, how talented he is and what he's done for the music industry. Think whatever you want about him, but you can't deny his talent. You know what I mean?
You can see Wade getting really defensive over Michael Jackson in this interview, and he did not like the way Jimmy Kimmel was talking about Michael Jackson. Just a little side note as well, this is going to be my final video on this topic, unless something else comes out in the future. And I want to make a video not just about Leaving Neverland, but just to protect his legacy. So we are going to be talking about everybody today, from Wade Robson to Save Chuck to Gavin Orvizo to Macaulay Culkin, to everybody that has been involved in his life, because it's more than Leaving Neverland. This is protecting his legacy and defending his innocence. Before we move on, I would like to add a little bit of a subjective comment here. I do have to say that this documentary did an amazing job in making you feel bad for these two accusers. Dan Reed did an amazing job toying with your emotions and making you feel a certain way. And usually, movies or a drama piece does that as well. And I truly believe that this was a marketing campaign. I truly believe that if somebody wanted to watch this documentary, they had to be drawn in. I would like to say a quick side note that yes, I know I'm adding a lot of the old evidence into this video, but that's because of the fact that maybe someone doesn't even know about this case or hasn't seen my 2 previous videos on this topic. So that's why I'm giving a little bit of a refresher. But when we get into the Gavin Orvizo case, the Jordy Chandler case, when we get into those cases, I will be adding some new evidence that you guys haven't seen yet and all of that stuff in the later parts of the video. But we are now going to move on to James Safechuck. James Safechuck is the second Neverland accuser to be in this documentary. He is alleging that Michael Jackson abused him all throughout the sexual relationship in the train station at Neverland. But a fan took the liberty of doing the research themselves and actually found something to contradict that claim. So a fan posted this in the midst of March when all of this stuff was going on, and this was Dan Reed's response. Yeah, there seems to be no doubt about the station date. The date they have wrong is the end of the abuse. James Safechuck was saying that the abuse was happening in the train station, but according to the blueprint, the train station wasn't approved when James Safechuck said he was abused. What also struck me as really odd is the fact that when they were telling these stories, they did not have an ounce of remorse. When you go through abuse, sometimes it is so painful that you cannot recall a certain detail, let alone an entire convoluted story. Now, if they were really abused by Michael Jackson and severely like they are claiming, they would not be able to even speak half of these details. I would like to pause for a second and talk about Dan Reed. Dan Reed is the director of Leaving Neverland, as we are all aware of, and he's openly admitted to the fact that he really doesn't know much about Michael Jackson. He's more backgrounded in terrorism and history documentaries, not so much Michael Jackson. He never was really a fan, to be honest. He also did a radio interview fully admitting that it was all about the Jackson estate's money and the Jackson family's money, and that's why they did this documentary.
Again, the Jackson family they're saying, look, these guys, they're just out for money. And in fact, they sued for money. What's your response to that? That this is all about the money, that this is why this is happening now, and that they're lying. They're just out for the money from a dead man who cannot defend himself.
It is all about the money. But it's all about the Jackson estate's money and the Jackson family.
If that's not enough evidence to prove his innocence to you, I don't know what is. The director of the documentary, who made it himself, is saying that it is all about the Jackson estate's money and the Jackson's family's. If this is not enough evidence to conclude his innocence on this occasion, I don't really know what is. What I ask of you is to do your own research on these things and look deeper, because when you accuse somebody such as Michael Jackson of child molestation, it can be very lethal, as we have seen in the media. Do your own research, stay educated. Now, in making this final podcast, I realized that this was not about Leaving Neverland. This is defending Michael Jackson's legacy. So I will be talking about one more case, which is the Evan Chandler, Jordy Chandler case. Evan Chandler was Jordy Chandler's dad. Evan Chandler was a dentist, and Jordy was just a normal kid. Jordy talked to Michael Jackson all of the time, but then lost contact due to just losing contact with Michael. Evan Chandler lost his mind and thought of a plan to wreck his reputation in a taped phone conversation, exposing his plans about what he was going to do to Michael Jackson. Even though at first Jordy Chandler denied being touched sexually by Michael Jackson, it has been rumored by sources saying that Jordy Chandler was given a truth serum by Evan Chandler because he was a dentist. But truly, I believe he was just coached very hardcore by Evan Chandler.
Meanwhile, CBS obtained a secretly taped phone conversation allegedly between the father of the boy who accused Jackson of sexual abuse and the boy's stepfather. Listen to this.
This man is going to be humiliated beyond belief. He will not believe it. He will not believe what's going to happen to him. Beyond his worst nightmares. Sell one more record. If I go through with this, I win big time. I will get everything I want. They will be destroyed.
It's been reported that Evan Chandler committed suicide right after Michael Jackson's death. There have been many celebrities in Michael Jackson's favor saying that nothing happened, such as Brett Barnes and Macaulay Culkin and others. Like I've said before, I'm not here to force a narrative down your throat or make you believe that Michael Jackson was innocent. But what I'm here to do is provide facts and evidence in MJ's favor, and what you do with it is up to you.
The facet he related to what you went through as a child, and I think he, in a way, he was trying to protect you.
Yeah,
I mean, and I got something that was kind of profound. Did you feel that's
true?
He
reached out to me because a lot of things were happening, like big and fast with me, and I think he identified with that. I mean, at the end of the day, it's almost easy to try to say, oh, it was like weird or whatever, but it wasn't, because it made sense. Like we were legitimate. Like, here's the thing: at the end of the day, we were friends in the most simple.
And he was a child in many ways too. He didn't.
But also, like, we were just like. It's like one of my friendships that people question only because of the fact that he was the most famous person in the world. Like, like I'm friends. We're friendly. You know what I mean? And the more people wouldn't question that. Because we're friends.
Because we're in the same age.
You don't have to explain that. Also, you don't have to explain your friendships to people. Like, I mean, seriously, how many friendships have you had to really explain to people?
Not many.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's just
I
like
think maybe do you think the age gap is probably why they question it.
Yeah,
Why would an
exactly.
older man? Why want to? But only you would know.
Because what I said in the very beginning is that I was a peerless person. I was like, like nobody else in my Catholic school even had like this much idea of what I was going through. Or what and like he was the kind of person who'd been through the exact same freaking thing and wanted to make sure that like I wasn't alone in that kind of.
Was he fun?
He was fucking awesome. He was hilarious. He was sweet. And people didn't know how funny he fucking was.
See, I envy you that. I envy you.
He liked prank calling people. He actually was really good with his voice, obviously.
Michael Jackson would prank call, and with you, you'd call some people.
Yep.
What would he say?
He always, I can't do his voices because obviously he was good with his voice. But he'd go like, no. He's like, how are you? And he's like, I'm good. Like, hi, do you have any mattresses in your mattress store? And he's kind of like, and it was like, and he could do a really good, he was fucking hilarious. Like people, I mean, he was charming, fucking funny, silly. And here's the thing is that, again, it goes back to something else I was saying was that I really didn't actually give a shit about famous people. Because I was thoroughly unimpressed by them. So when I first met him, I'm like, okay, cool. You're just that guy.
Yep.
Oh, that guy who sang songs. Like, cool.
Great.
Okay.
What I'm saying here is there has been multiple attempts to try and destroy Jackson's reputation and legacy, such as the Martin Bashir documentary when Martin Bashir did a documentary with Michael Jackson and completely lied to him and twisted the narrative of it, and Oprah being personally invited to Neverland. I almost forgot to mention something so vital to all of this. Michael has openly admitted to these sleepovers happening. Now, if he was a real pedophile, do you really think he'd be openly talking about this on national television on multiple different interviews? Like I said in my previous video, Michael did not have a childhood. From the age of 5 to the age of 50, all he knew was the stage. That was 5 decades of no childhood. Having a Jehovah's Witness mom, having an abusive dad, everything. You have to do your research before you can presume a dead man to be guilty. I love you, and I will see you all in my very next video.